firstly, thank you for being here. I understand it's really a busy time for you. You know, there's so many questions which everybody wanted to ask you, and I thought I'll take this liberty to ask on behalf of the industry, as well as many of our customers and partners. Let me start by the first question. You have said in your recent AGM speech that in the next 20 years, the world will collectively achieve more than what has been achieved in the last 300 years. How do you see this shaping up?
Well, Neelam, let me first thank you for this opportunity. This is a particular privilege for me to be at Nasscom. I think I have a lot of respect for the Indian IT industry, and this being the 25th year, I still remember the 90s, where my friend Pramod Mahajan used to say that Abhi, India is known only for two things, IT and beauty. That was the time that we had won Miss Worlds on a continuous basis. And on that foundation, what an industry all of you have built. It's $160 billion today, so my congratulations to all of you. You know, I really think that we are at a very exciting time in human history. And the way I think about it, and now this is said, but I think about it simply in terms of what does the fourth industrial revolution mean for us, right? So if we think about the first industrial revolution, that was really coal and steam that taught us mechanization of production. The second industrial revolution, which was electrical power and oil, gave humanity the tools of mass production and distribution. The third industrial revolution, which was electronics, automation, and what I call siloized software, right, gave us the basics of efficiency and productivity. And now we are just at the doorsteps of the fourth industrial revolution, which is convergence of the physical, digital, and biological sciences. So when you have everything converging, I've understood very recently, only 3 or 4 years ago, the meaning of the word exponential. And I think that all of you being in the IT industry understand exponential. And I think that we are on the verge of exponential change. And with this convergence that is happening in the world, we have the opportunity to solve big problems in a short time. And that is why I say that in the next 20 years, humankind can achieve much more than what we have in the last 300 years. And it's a very exciting time.
Yes, and I tend to agree with you, because this is exciting times on how technology is impacting all of us. You also said data is the new oil and intelligent data is the new petrol. What made you say that? What were you thinking?
Well, I think that at the foundation, Neelam, of the fourth industrial revolution is connectivity and data, right? The convergence of all the sciences is really brought about by connectivity and data. And yes, to my mind, data is the new natural resource. And fundamentally, you have to have a lot of people to generate data and use data. So in that sense, India is naturally blessed with its 1.3 billion people. Data in its raw form, right, is useful, but for it to have real value, it has to be processed into intelligence. And we are really at the beginning of that era where data is really the new oil, and when we bring all these convergent technologies, the benefits that it brings to society is immense. And that is why I really believe that data is the new oil, and India, just with its talent and young population in this natural resource, will have a competitive advantage.
And Mukesh bhai, when you look at this, how is Jio accelerating the digital drive of India within this framework?
Well, Jio was conceived, right, at a time where we all knew that the world is fast digitizing. And if the Indian economy doesn't have access to next generation digital infrastructure, we will be left behind, we will be outcompeted, and we will not stand a chance to prove ourselves in the world. In 2015, India was 155th out of 230 countries in mobile broadband access. And we believe with the investment in Jio and the concurrent action of the industry as a whole spurred by Jio, India can easily be in the top 10 countries in the world in terms of broadband access. And to our mind, every Indian has a right to live his life to his full potential, and digital life will be a part of that in the coming years. And given that, we think data is the oxygen of this digital life, and no Indian should have this oxygen in scarcity, in quantity, or should not have the right quality, or should not have the right affordability. So Jio really stands for affordability, quality and quantity for all Indians at all times. And with the initial response that we got from Indians, we are absolutely overwhelmed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been one of the most phenomenal launches that India has seen in 2016, and all of us are using the Jio technology already. So it has been phenomenal. And a little known fact which I'll share with you is some of the technologies which Jio adopted in setting up the network and setting up the whole digital solutions were perhaps being used for the first time, and that innovation, taking the risk on the latest and the greatest technology, Jio has done, and it's been an incredible journey from technology perspective. But then, what are the next plans for Reliance in this digital era?
Well, we are, from our point of view, the way we see digitization of the world, as you said, Neelam, we are at the bleeding edge of technology. And when you put young Indians together, right, and give them an opportunity, in my experience, they have always outperformed and out-delivered. So what we now have is a network platform. It's the world's first all-IP platform that covers now over 95% of Indians. We really think that as the world digitizes, with the opportunities that we see to solve big problems, the next step is partnership. And I was just talking with Saurabh and Harish Bhai before in terms of saying that great, this has been a great journey for $260 billion. Yes. And what do we want to achieve in the next 10 years? And I was telling them that actually Trump might be a blessing in disguise.
Why do you say that?
It will focus the Indian talent, it will focus the Indian IT industry to focus on solving problems in India. And I think that the domestic market, is huge. Within that, I think that what the Jio platform offers and what we look forward to is really partner with the next generation to really solve problems for India, to improve quality of life for our people, to make sure that our industries are more productive, and to again, not only, as Harish Bhai just told me, that this is reimagine and not re-engineer.
Yes.
Right? So fundamentally, it's like our view is that we partner, and in this is all about building the digital ecosystem. No one company can do it on its own.
Yes.
And we really have to adopt the next gen technology. India has to be the capital of real implementation of blockchain to build the trust economy in terms of the internet. We have the opportunity really to make sure that we adapt artificial intelligence and natural language processing. We adapt drones in terms of our own logistics. So I think that the opportunities are immense, and we now have the infrastructure to do it in our own market and make India one of the biggest software markets in the world.
That really is exciting, and it brings me to the next question. Planet of apps. If we can take the liberty of saying so, how do you see this transforming the way we live and rendering mobile as the most important device for IT?
Well, to my mind, mobile computing, right, is the defining technology of this century. Yes. And when you combine mobile computing with the progress that we have made in connectivity and with machine learning, deep learning and artificial intelligence, right, and the whole natural language processing. In fact, we were again just talking about this with Saurabh Bhai coincidentally, in terms of saying that, like, what happens to millions of Indians, how will they access information on the internet? And it can be your own language, you can speak to your mobile phone and there you are. You don't need to type, you don't need to do anything. So this whole combination that is coming about is again going to redefine the quality of information and services that will be available to ordinary Indians, so that they have access to opportunities and information which was impossible before.
So Mukesh Bhai, this brings me to the next question, and it's truly two questions. Whenever I visit your campus, I see so many young people, so many millennials working for you. And the way they use technology also is perhaps very different. And when I look at, they're consuming technology also differently. So how do you work with the new generation so well? Because many of us are working with millennials and they have different asks and different usage. And how do you think they are going to consume the technology tomorrow?
Well, I think that having twins who are 25-year-old helps, because being with them and their friends, like, figures out it closes a generation gap. But more importantly, I think that when we are in the engineering, technology world, like we have, and we have visions of ourselves, right? I always remind our technology people in terms of saying that, remember, at the end of the day, technology has to adjust to human beings and not the other way around. And I always tell our young people a particular story, and like it goes like, saying that there was this great software guru, technology PhD, all the great tech nerds that we have, and a really ordinary Gujarati from Gujarat on a plane, both sitting next to each other. And this guy is in awe of this guru and says, so the guru says, I am a technology guy, but chalo, let's play a game. I'll be generous to you, that you can ask me one question, I'll ask you one question. And whoever cannot answer the question, if you don't know the question, you pay it, like you pay us. And because I am the great technology guru, for whatever question I don't know, I'll pay you 100 rupees. You pay me 10 rupees. This poor Guju looked at this guy and said, okay, we'll do that, like you're a great technology guy. So he says, okay, you start. So he said, yeah, this is the phone in your hand. Tell me, like in 1969, like for NASA, what was the power of the computers and what's the power in your phone? And asked him a complicated question. This guy said, I don't know. So he says, okay, here, 10 rupees. So he gave him 10 rupees. So he took it. Now, fundamentally, the Guju had to ask the same question. So he asked, okay, so he said, okay, tell me, like, what is that animal that climbs a mountain on 4 legs and comes down on 3 legs? So this software engineer, like, went on, says, what is it, what is it? Like, he took his phone, Googled everything, this is that, and said, don't know. So took 100 rupees and gave it to the guy. This guy took the 100 rupees, went to sleep, saying, no, this is not fair, right? You have to tell me, you just can't go to sleep. Tell me what the right answer is. After all, I am the engineer, PhD and all this stuff. So the Guju took another 10 rupees and gave it to him, says, I don't know. So within this, I think that the big lesson that all of us engineers and tech gurus have to understand, that ultimately there is common sense and the power of the common man, and technology has to adjust to human beings. All young people have to understand, at the end of the day, we serve society and we serve that common man, and we should always be aware that he is far smarter than each one of us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. This is indeed a remarkable story. We will remember it too. Going on to look at India as an economy, India was once a leading economy in the world. Today again, the world has started taking note of India's potential for growth in coming decades. Can India become the change leader for the world?
Absolutely. I think that we have all the ingredients of leading back in this new age that the world is going to go through. And just let me give you one simple example in terms of change. And it really is on the work that my friend Nandan Nilekani has done in terms of the Aadhaar identity system. So because we have Aadhaar, where now over 1.3 billion people have individual identity, right? That helps multiple industries. When we started Jio, right, and we set a target for ourselves in terms of saying that we will acquire 100 million customers in the shortest time, right? Even we didn't imagine that we would do it in months.
Yes.
In terms of that, we just set ourselves a goal, and if it was not for Aadhaar, right, Aadhaar enabled us to acquire 1 million customers a day, which is unheard of in the industry as a whole. You take that one step forward with the digital payment ecosystem that we are fast developing. The biggest change that can happen, and I see that happening in the next 12, 18 months, is that we can change from, and so far India has been a high value, low volume loan economy. So loans and financial resources were only available to a few people. We have all witnessed, right? Ordinary people who have some finance, right? Any of 30,000. And I see that changing primarily on the basis of technology, where now based on your own behavior, you can get a loan on your mobile phone in 10 to 15 seconds, and millions of people. So from just high value, low volume, we will move to high volume and low value, and this then actually is the biggest change that you bring about. And I can give you many such examples, but I think that we are again at the doorsteps of change in terms of adapting technology and adapting it in such a way that it actually changes lives of millions of people.
And I think once activity happens at grassroots level, we should see the economy grow far rapidly than what we have seen in the last few years that has happened. But in a country like ours, what is the key challenge you see as we go on this journey of digitalization? We saw demonetization just troubled everybody and we were held back. And now when we look at how everyone has taken to the payments solutions which have come up, how even in the rural area we see them talking about the various mobile payments which they are able to do. One would think that was a blessing in disguise in bringing everyone to look ahead. But there could be something which can challenge us and put us aback. What do you think are the key challenges this country may face in this whole process of digitalization?
Well, I think the most important thing, and to my mind, India has a big advantage in this new world in terms of digitization. It's very important to be open. It's very important to have partnerships and not be closed. So that's really a strength for India, and we should really build on this strength, continue to be open and never think like, while whatever the world trends will be, right, in terms of the world might want to build walls around, I think it is very important for us not to be influenced by that, but to make sure that we are always open, always connected, and clearly, in my view, we will find solutions. There will be issues with security and privacy, but as long as we are clear of our end objective, right? So if we focus on the goal, we will overcome the obstacles of security and privacy. They will always be important, but the goal of development and the goal of improving lives of hundreds of millions of people is the opportunity that we have.
In fact, when we look at all the surveys in 2016, security comes right on top. And just before you arrived, we did talk about security being one of the biggest concerns and area which all of us need to address. And we are going to talk a lot about it next few days about it. Now, I wanted to change the track of questions because at Nasscom we have been nurturing new companies and startups, and we have a goal to nurture 10,000 startups, and currently we have around 4,500 startups. And when I look at Jio, it's perhaps the largest startup this country has. And, of course, it's a very big and very expensive startup for startups to able to afford. But when you look at these entrepreneurs and young people who are starting new organizations, what would you advise them to do? What is your advice for the new entrepreneurs on the block?
Well, my advice to more than advice, I'll share what I have learned. I think advice to an entrepreneur is not appropriate, so I can only share, like, the first piece was really taught to me by my father in terms of saying that, so he says, and he first gave me when I had just come back from Stanford Business School. So I said, what is going to be my job? Please describe my, what do I do now?
Roles and responsibilities.
In terms of roles and responsibility, absolutely. So he says, Acha, am I giving you, if you're a job, then you're a manager, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you'll figure out what you want to do. So I'm not going to tell you anything, figure out what you want to do. Right? The second piece that I think I learned is that as an entrepreneur, right, it's very important to find a problem that you want to solve, that you are passionate about. Right? There is no, and this is the same thing that, in fact, Professor Sharma at UDCG, I was blessed to have him, he'd always say that I am not going to give you a list of problems and then you can go and work on anything. You find a problem. And then I will grade you on the quality of the problem that you find, and then I'll grade you on the quality of solution that you actually do. So the same rules apply for an entrepreneur, that it's not solving problems, it's first finding problems. Once you find the problem, right, then you solve it. The third thing that I have learned is that, and we've now institutionalized it at Reliance, is that you have to create societal value. Right? You have to solve a problem which actually does good in some way. And that has to be the main objective of the business. And financial returns are actually a byproduct. If you focus only on financial returns, right, chances are that you would not really become great and solve your own passion. The other piece that I have learned is failures are normal, right? With all the success that one sees, people, even in my own case, don't see how many times I have failed before I succeed. So they are just a step before you succeed. So never get disheartened by failures. Learn from them, but never give up. Two non-negotiables for me are, one is treat your investors' money, and this was early on ingrained into us at Reliance, is that we had taken money from small investors, that treat your investors' money even more carefully than your own money. And second is, you cannot do anything without the right team, and it is very important to align the team passionately to your own mission. And finally, an entrepreneur is always positive. He's an optimist, and he proves, there are lots of cynics, lots of negative people around, but an entrepreneur spreads positive energy. That's really what I have learned.
So Mukesh bhai, this is really, really very interesting comments, because I really think the 5 things you said is to be passionate about something which is really going to transform, have the right talent, have the right positive approach, treat the money, which is your investors' money, very, very carefully. I think these are good guidance which the entrepreneurs of today will hope to carry with them and learn from you. With that, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate your taking your time to talk to the industry and to all us people.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much for the opportunity.